So the update's been out for a few days now. We've gotten some time to get used to all the new changes before the Brawl Pass is even out here tomorrow. And seeing that there's been a bunch of discussion inside the community about certain opinions, new additions to the game, how people are feeling about Brawl Stars now, I'd like to give my 2 cents on the topic as well. In my opinion, the 5 best and the 5 worst update implementations here in Season 20. But before we get into anything, a quick word from our wonderful sponsor here today. I am very excited to say that today's video is brought to you by the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 Plus, dude. It's sick. Bigger than my head. There's so much to talk about this device, but one thing in particular that I enjoy the most is the screen. All Tab S9 series devices now feature expansive dynamic AMOLED 2x screens so you can experience intense colors, deep contrast, and unbelievable brilliance in stunning detail. And on top of that, it has a 12.4-inch display. It is insane. Its durability is exceptional while at the same time having this like really sleek, cool design. I mean, look how thin this thing is. It looks so clean. And another thing that I really enjoy is the S Pen for any of you creatives out there. Something about these S Pens that I've really enjoyed about these devices that I think just does it that much further for me, you know? But of course, what are you guys waiting for? Be sure to check out the Galaxy Tab S9 Plus for yourselves if you're on the market for one. You will not be disappointed. It is a fantastic device. Once again, a huge thank you to Samsung for sponsoring this video here today. But with that being said, let's hop straight away back into the video. Here we go! But starting things off, in my opinion, one of the best things coming out in this update, a feature that we haven't been able to test out yet, and that is one of the newest brawlers, Chuck. I feel like it's got a pretty dang high learning curve that I cannot wait to try out. Also, the character has a ton of personality. A lot of people have grown to like Chuck already. While at the same time, I've been hearing a very interesting conversation about some of the newest brawlers being added to the game where sometimes it feels like it's just like copy-paste mechanics, much like Macy and Pearl's supers being very, very similar, where there's some overlap with certain brawlers. Another great example is Doug and Jackie, right? Where it feels like Chuck is just this breath of fresh air, something completely foreign from the game, which we always see in updates like this, much like Cordelius in the last update introducing these really interesting mechanics, and Chuck is that breath of fresh air of a character that I think it's going to be really, really fun to toy around with. To the point where I feel like people are more excited for Chuck than Pearl, so much so that they're not going to buy the Brawl Pass and save their gems for Chuck when he's released. Isn't that funny? Moving along to, in my opinion, one of the worst features coming out in this update, and a lot of my opinion is stemming from what I've been seeing from the community as well. But one thing in particular that's been a bit of a hot topic is the percent changes in between every single power level, where as before you upgrade from power level 1 to power level 2, you get a 5% increase of power to your attack, to your HP, where now every single level it's 10%. I remember the first time watching the Brawl Talk and I saw a tankier unit like El Primo having this much HP, I was like, oh my gosh, El Primo just got the biggest buff in the entire game. But with jokes aside, the whole reasoning that the dev team wanted to have this percent increase in between power levels here is to have a bit more of a better feeling, a much more worthwhile feeling. When you spend the resources going to a different power level, you want to feel it. I think they accomplished that. You definitely feel the weight behind a new power level, which could be viewed as good, but it also has some negative sides of things. Some of the more popular arguments I've been seeing on this topic is, for example, beforehand when you had a power level 9 brawler and you had star powers and gadgets, in the right hands you would still feel pretty well equipped to be able to go up against a maxed out player at power level 11, right? It's only 10% with 2 different levels in between. Where now, as I've been seeing a lot of people having a very hard time playing up against maxed players when they're power level 9 or 8, because instead of a 10% power increase from 9 to 11, we're dealing with a 20%, right? It's a big difference. And another huge reason that I would say impacts me the most that I don't necessarily like about this is the really low level brawlers, like power level 1, are so much more weak as they were before. It was pretty dang hard to go for like rank 25s for our Green Iron Man challenge at power level 1 and things like that up against these maxed out players, but you could still maybe do it if you played your cards right. But at that time, the comparison between between power level 1 and 11 was like 50% more strong, or like 55 or something like that, but now it's pretty much so doubled, right? With a 10% increase, we're now dealing with a character that is 100 times more powerful, right? So in my opinion, power level 1 grinds are almost impossible now, if not like one of the most ridiculous things you can do in the game if you get a significant level. But switching the tone, getting back into one of the best features coming out in this update, in my opinion, and that is the addition to a brand new super rare gear, the gadget charge increase, where now characters are getting 4 gadgets when utilizing this gear. Now, I have been seeing some arguments where people don't necessarily like this gear for characters that are like really good in the game right now, much like Piper. Having 4 curveball, whatever curve shots that she has with her gadget are pretty dang good. It's intimidating to go up against a Piper now, but man, is it such a wacky gear that just feels so dang good on certain brawlers to have an extra gear, right? For your main brawler, just having an extra gadget, it feels so dang good, especially those characters that you find ripping through all 3 of your gadgets within the first 30 seconds of a match. Having an extra one just feels so good. I really enjoy this gear for a lot of reasons, and one of those reasons being, again, another example of a phenomenal idea coming from the Brawl Stars community. This was derived from the goated Pineapple, a very predominant figure when it comes to idea generation and things along those lines. They introduced his idea, which is really cool. But then, as for a worst feature, in my opinion, added in this update, and that is a aspect of hypercharges. Believe it or not, hypercharges are going to make the good side of this list here today, because I think they're pretty dang good, and we'll elaborate on that a little bit further later on. But the specific thing that I don't necessarily love about hypercharges is how expensive they are. Not taking into account these offers in the shop here, which are pretty dang expensive, but you do get quite a few things here. Those are definitely expensive, and I would just wait if you want hypercharges, right, to get them cheaper. But I am also just talking about their innate price when you want to buy them for coins, being 5,000 coins. I feel like there was this little weird jump when it comes to abilities here in the game, where gadgets are 1,000, star powers are 2,000, some gears are even more expensive than that, but then we took this big leap to 5,000 coins for a hypercharge, and of course, sometime down the line, we're gonna have a hypercharge for every single brawler in this game. Don't get me wrong, Brawl Stars is one of, if not the most free-to-play friendly game amongst the Supercell cast of games, but I feel like with every update where we get these increasingly higher abilities and things like that for free-to-play players, it starts to become really taxing. Where if you want to get a brawler completely maxed out free-to-play, adding another thing on top of that being 5,000 coins is a lot, especially if you want to get a completely maxed out account. 72 times 5,000 is like 300 and some thousand coins just for one hypercharge on all the brawlers. I know with any new ability it's going to cost something, right? But I feel like it would have felt better if it was like keeping up with the gadgets to star powers and then the hypercharged another ability like that. What if it was like 3,000 or 4,000 coins? You know what I mean? Now, switching gears, a good thing about hypercharge making our list for a best implementation, I think the whole concept of hypercharges feels really good. I'm a fan of hypercharges. A lot of our worries that we had leading into this update about them being busted and overpowered and things like that, the 6 brawlers that have them are going to be the only meta in the game because they're so strong. I feel like a lot of that was kind of dispelled when we were able to test these things out. They don't feel like a huge game changer or anything like that, as flashy as they do look and scary. In my opinion, I feel like they're really close to a feeling of like a gadget or a star power, you know what I mean? If you use it in the correct way, you can do some really great things, much like a solid gadget. I hope that they continue with really unique abilities for the additional like super ability that the hypercharges come with. I feel like that's the main catch and the thing that excites me the most about hypercharges. I don't think it's a bad implementation whatsoever mechanically. I think it makes Brawl Stars a bit more fun, and I think it's a pretty dang decent change. Next up, a worst update implementation. Oh boy, guys, if I had to rank these, if this was like a ranked list, I think this would be at the #1 spot for me, at least, and that is the changes to the trophy events that happened in the update, where we used to have 6 different trophy-based game modes to choose from. We now only have 4. While at the same time, some very significant game modes were removed out of rotation, some popular game modes like Heist and Hot Zone. I feel like that was a huge huge impactor for people who enjoy this game here. To be completely honest, going into this update, I didn't know if it would be a hang up for me or anything like that, but I sat down the day of the update came out and played for a very long time. It was the very first time I feel like I've ever felt this way in Brawl Stars, and that is like restricted. And it's nice to know that I wasn't alone in this feeling. We have Lex tweeted out here, "I do not like the removal of game modes, feels so limited," which was literally the exact same feeling that I had here. As bad as it is, one thing I do want to say is if this was the thing that made you quit Brawl Stars in this update, if this makes you not like Brawl Stars as much, try to take a deep breath. I feel like the Brawl Stars dev team gets the most testy when it comes to the game modes and how they rotate, trying to optimize matchmaking. They're always testing out new game modes, coming into rotation, pulling things out. I got a feeling this is just another test on their part to see how the community would like it, how it might improve matchmaking. I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. We just kind of gotta sit through it at the minute here. Oh baby, moving along to a change that I absolutely adore, dude. And that is the buff to my boy, Mortis. He feels so dang good to play now with that coiled snake bar that charges up no matter what ammo you have. Oh my gosh, it feels good. But not just being a Mortis fan here, I feel like the Brawl Stars dev team did a pretty dang solid job with this list of balance changes. The meta feels fresh. Some scary brawlers right now in the meta haven't been scary in a very long time. Nani got some love. Some addresses to other problem childs in the meta were handled, and some cool buffs like this, some sleeper brawlers that haven't really been addressed in a really long time, like Mortis getting a significant buff like this. The balance changes in my mind are a huge plus in this update, and I'm a pretty dang big fan of them. Of course, there are new nightmare brawlers to deal with, like Piper is really good right now, but it's a nice welcome change to see some new crazy brawlers that aren't always up there in the meta. And just icing on top of the cake, Mortis feels so dang good right now, man. It's so good. But next up, transitioning to another implementation making the worst update implementation of this episode today, and that is kind of piggybacking off of the other worst one, and that is a significant change that I don't know if they overlooked or something like that, but quests feel really clunky and weird now with the removal of Hot Zone and other game modes. I've been seeing pictures galore of this example here, this individual United Steak of America, where people are still getting quests for some of the game modes that were removed here, making quests feel so slow, where Hot Zone and Heist are going to come out into rotation, much like Heist being out this weekend here, but having to wait for a few days in order to complete a quest or to burn a reroll because of it feels really bad. I'm sure this could be a very quick fix on the Brawl Stars devs team side of things, but where we're at right now, the quests feel really clunky, and I don't like it. And the final thing making my list for the 5 best update implementations is the revival of Siege. This one is definitely very opinionated. I know some people just don't like Siege and stuff like that, but it's nice to know that the dev team would bring stuff back from the past, make significant changes like this, and it is truly nice to see a very old game mode and experience some of the new brawlers that are in the game that were released when Siege was absent, being able to test out their mechanics in that game mode, seeing who's broken, who excels. It really shows how much has changed in Brawl Stars since the removal of Siege. Being able to test out all this stuff just makes it feel so exciting and a new like territory to explore inside of Brawl Stars, which I really enjoy. And the final thing, arguably in some people's minds in the community, the worst implementation in this update by far. What in the world did they do to my boy? That animation, bro, come on. But there you have it, everyone. In my opinion, 5 great update implementations and 5 that aren't so great, I'm thinking. One great thing to take away from this, I know we are kind of ridiculing an update here, which I think is important in the community, making sure to speak your mind on things that you don't necessarily like, in a constructive way, I should add. But it's nice to know that the dev team takes a lot of our feedback into account, and they hold it at a very high regard when it comes to implementing new things here in Brawl Stars. So I'm sure if things are really grinding your gears and the community doesn't like it, voicing your opinions will more than likely get it to change in the future. So keep doing what you guys are doing. It's all to make this game that we know and love a good one at the end of the day. But yeah, guys, hope you all enjoyed the episode. If you did, make sure to slap a like on it. Make sure to let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. But yeah, have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Keep having fun, Brawl Stars, and we'll see you in the next one. Adios and take care.